So hello everybody, Intuitive Instruments sent me this new controller, the Exquis. I don't know how to pronounce it in French and my French is pretty bad. So let's go with Exquis, and this controller is an MPE controller which supports a different layout as well. So it's a so-called isomorphic layout. What that means we will see in a second, but first let's have a look at the device itself. It's made out of plastic, very light. The knobs are a bit on the wobbly side, but everything else feels pretty solid and absolutely trustworthy to take on the road. And as I said, it's very light and very thin, so it fits easily into your bag. And you can also do CV with it, so you can do gate, pitch, and mod, and MIDI in and output if you run that standalone. If you use it with a DAW, we going with USB-C, and there you can do MIDI and the MPE protocol. And what else is in the box? You get some adapters for MIDI, you get a really nice bag to wrap it up and take it with you, and you get some cables with it. So you have a USB-C to USB-A cable, and you have a very short introduction, but you should get the manual from their website instead. But let's have a look at the device itself. I support it now in Bitwig as well in Reaper in the latest DrivenByMoss release. And yeah, what can we do with it? Let's first have a look at how this layout works. So it's an isomorphic layout, which means to the top, to the right, there is always a major third, and to the left it's always a minor third. So which means you can easily play chords, which is not so sure nice to demo with a bass. So let's go here with a pad and let's transpose it. So here you can transpose up and down by 1 octave. Let's go up 2 octaves. And if you play this form, you will always have a major chord, and no matter what scale you're in, it's always a major chord. And if you go the other way around to the left, there's always a minor chord. And you can also add a seventh to it if you play that one. So you just need to learn a few of the finger positions, and then you can play the same in each and every scale. So if you go here to the right and to the top with the lid keys, it's always the next note. And the distance between these two is 2 octaves. And there's the middle one. Upwards is always thirds, but if you go to the left and to the right, it's always a semitone. So here we have C, C sharp, D, D sharp, and to the left it's the other way round, 1 semitone down. And that's always the same here on the keyboard. You can also change the scale and the bass note, and you can also do that from Bitwig. So if you go here on the top on the settings, you see here is a major setting for scale, and here is a C set for the bass note, and this can be changed directly from the controller. So if you keep this configuration button here pressed, you can change here different settings, and the second one changes the bass note, which is also very funnily displayed here with the pads. And so for example, this is D sharp, and you see it also happening, and here you can change the scale. So let's maybe switch here to a natural minor. You have different scales here available. Less normally as I provide with other support things, but these things are all happening in the device itself. So the scales and the MPE settings and the layout here, this is happening in the device. And if you want changes for that, you have to write to Intuitive Instruments. So, and what does a fourth knob do? The fourth one changes the intensity of the light, so you can increase that quite a lot. You will not see that very well on the display because it changes then the image. So I think the best quality we get if you put it quite down, you can at least get an idea of the colors. I notice it's very hard to film, but it looks very nice in reality. And the first knob allows you to set the tempo, but not in fractions. But nevertheless, I think that's okay. So we can go here up to 132, for example, more or less, and you can change that. And you will also see here the LED go in the tempo of the currently selected tempo. And down in the button, you can have different arpeggiator settings if it's going up or up and down, so the usual things. And if you activate that here on this slider, and this slider is not a full slider, so it has 6 positions, which you can also feel here up here. So there is a separation here, and if you move it down, you can fade quickly on it, but here are these steps in between, so you can feel which of the steps you have currently selected. And this selects here and repeat arpeggiator. Maybe let's better do that with the bass. So the slider, you can also have pretty quick changes. Okay, you can go quite crazy with that. And what else do we have here is the undo and redo function on these 2 buttons. And then we have here the transport control. On the transport control, we have here the usual play and stop button. If you double click it, you go back here to the beginning of a song. You can also configure the behavior in the settings. This one toggles repeat, so the arranger loop on and off, and it has also other functions. And here you can activate arranger recording. Here we have more settings on that for changing the MPE settings, and you can read that up in the manual. It's more detailed and not so easy to explain, so better read that up in the manual. So what can we actually do with MPE? Let's switch here again to the bass sound, and you can do now pitch bend to the left and to the right. And you can also do something with pressure and with modulation if you move it up and down, but we need to configure that first here because this patch is not configured for MPE. But we can add here the expressions modulation here. So the timbre is the modulation for going up and down, and the pressure is when we press it. So for example, we could say if we press it, we increase a little bit the cutoff. And if we do modulation, we change here the phaser to maximum. Why not? So you see the cutoff moving, and we go now upwards and activate the phaser. And for sure you can do this with several ones. That's funny. So much for display mode, but we have also controls here on the top, and there you can do different things. So if you take a look now at Bitwig and I click here on the first one, I can change the project parameters 1 to 4, and I can also toggle to 5 to 8. So we have here the project parameters. These are the ones which are available all over Bitwig, and you can add any parameter you like. For example, you could add here volume, you could add whatever here, the resonance, so anything you like again. So the resonance and so on and so forth, and can stop that. And here, if we select this mode with parameters 1 to 4, we can change these parameters. And the next one, if you press here the second knob, you can change the track parameters, which are here. So these are funnily the same. Maybe let's go here to a different page so you can see the difference. So we change now the track parameters, and also here you can toggle between editing 5 to 8 and 1.4. That's something I had to do because you have only 4 knobs, but in Bitwig we always have this 8 parameter, even if I configure it differently. So here we can change now the track remotes, and then we could click on the third one and you will see that we can edit these. And I tried also to use a bit of the colors they have, so red, orange, yellow, and the last one is a bit of greenish, and it's hard to see on the video, but here it's a little bit of help to know what you are doing. And last but not least, the fourth one is more for mixing. So this one edits the selected track. So we have now volume here on the first one, we have panorama on the second one. Let's activate the track so you can see that we have here the panorama. No, again, come on. Now we see the panorama. And here we have the sand. And here, if you would have a second sand, you have that on the fourth knob. But there is more. If we do editing here for the cursor devices, you might wonder how to change the pages and how to select a device and select parameters. And there you can go into this mode by long pressing the repeat button. And then this view comes up, and on the top you can select the track. So we can here select the first, second, and the fourth track, and we have then also the delay and master. And with that button you can go to the next page. So here we have now the delay and the master, and you can go back to the other page. And there's also a quick select down there where you can quickly go in pages of 4 to the scenes as well as to the track. So the blue one signaling the track, so we can now quickly change between them. Maybe let's add a bit more tracks so you can easier see that we can move here with that green box. The green box is the one from the Exquis here. And you can go here to the first one, second ones, and so on. And same here for the scenes, which we will also have a look at in a second. But let's go back to our first track, the drum machine. And maybe let's remove again the tracks we don't need. Here you see there is also some lit pads, and the first 4 rows allow you to select the parameter page. We only have here 1 page, and if you go to the cursor device, you will get all of the pages. And as you see, you can select all of the different pages. Since we're at the cursor device, you can also select the devices. We only have here 1, so let's add delay, and let's also add whatever, an EQ, and then you see we have now 3, and you can now switch between these different devices, and with undo you can remove them again. And if you are in the other modes, so if we are here on a track, you could also select here the pages. We only have 1, and same for the project parameters, which also have only 1 page, so we can only select this one, but you can have up to 22 different pages in direct access. So let's leave that mode again. And there's one button left we haven't pushed so far, which is here this clips or scene button, And if we enable that, we are now in session mode. This requires a bit of explanation because it's quite confusing, but I think after I explained it, it's quite understandable. So there is an upper part and there is a lower part. So the lower part are the first 4 rows, and in the upper part you have your clips in the center. So you have the 4 different track clips, and on the right you have the scene. So we could here start a scene, and you could start a second scene which has nothing on it. Let's create something on the track first so we can finally hear something. Let's stop playback and let's check activation. So here you select the track and here you enable recording, and we have already set our FM base to recording, and then add a new clip with that knob, and maybe let's activate the metronome for that. Let's go back to the bass. Okay, sounds totally weird. We take that. Let's go with that. And maybe let's go to another track. So let's select the drum track. Let's go back to play. Something like this. Let's give that a go. And we select now the drum track. We already have selected it. It's also record enabled. So we're good to go. You can configure the length, also the length of the clip, if you use that new function, which is that button, which you might have noticed. So let's go back to here. Very sloppy. Let's also try here a bit with the arpeggiator. I feel a new hits on the way. Okay, that's totally horrible, but it's just for demonstration. Let's try the third track. And let's go with the polysynth, and let's try here something with this setup to have a bit of MPE modulation. So the timbre is already set to the filter, and let's go with the pressure for, let's say we want to have some feedback. That filters in the wrong direction. Let's pull that up here. And let's pull the filter down. Better. So let's try to improvise a bit. Let's tweak that a bit. Okay, you get the idea. So back to this mode. What else can we do in here? So we have now one scene. You could create more, so you could also have here a second scene, but let's keep it with that. But here you can stop now clips. So we have only the drums left, and here you could stop all clips which are playing. Let's activate them again. Next row allows muting. And this one defeats all mutes. And next one is solo. And also defeats solo for all of them. And first row, we already had that. You can select a track and you can here change the record arming for them. So much for the lower part. And then here we have some function. So first one is for selecting a clip without starting the playback, if you just want to select them. Next one is for alternative start. So alternative start allows you to quickly move to a second one depending on what you have configured here in Bitwig, this alternate start. And for example, let's create a quick, very wild snare thing. Let's make the velocity higher. So, and if we do now press here this alternative start key, we can do the break. And when I release it, we are back to the normal clip again. So that was the alternate start key. Here we have creating a new scene from the playing clips. For example, if we play only the drums and these string sounds and we create a new scene, we have now a new scene with only these two playing. Okay, and that's a duplicate button, so you could duplicate anything to anything of the clip. So keep it pressed, select your source clip. For example, let's go with that one and put that here in the middle. And we did now copy that drum pattern clip into the bass track. Let's hear that. Very creative. Okay, and if you didn't like that, the first one here, keeping it pressed, allows you to delete all of the clips. So take that with care, but nevertheless, there's always the undo function to undo that or redo it if you didn't like it the other way. And here, last but not least, on the slider, you can do the same as I showed before in that selection mode. You can scroll either the scenes. Let's go for the scenes. So scenes, we have 7 scenes. So scene 1 to 7, and then we can go jump to the second one to scene 8 to 14. Maybe let's switch off that so you can see it better. So you can switch between them, or if you would have more, you could go up to more scenes. And same for the tracks. We saw that before. You can jump between your tracks. We only have here 6, so you can only select these 2 very quickly and very speedy. Very helpful, this selection bar. So that's what I did so far with the Exquis, and it does already a bit more than with the Ableton script. And yeah, maybe there's more ideas. Write me down in the comments. Should I add some sequencers? If yes, how should they work? Because it's a little bit tricky with this different layout, and you need to think what you would do about it. And yeah, I am open to new ideas for that controller. Do you have it? Do you like it? What are you doing with that? Tell me down in the comments. And until next time, make some funky music.